value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. He was the #1 U.S. stock market timer in the January 2020 edition of Timer Digest. He's speaking to us from Arizona. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Thanks for having me, Jim. Always fun.
Mark, do our listeners get a shot at a special offer?
Yeah, we activated the promo code, and it's even though it's got 2020 on it, we're going to change that to 21, but I think the 2020 still works. So it's 2020 half off. I'm hoping next week it'll change to 2021 half off. If one doesn't work, try the other, because I have some people in the back office working on that. But 2020 half off or 2021 half off is a 50% offer for any of the newsletters at the URL vrtrader.com.
Mark, is there anything exciting happening in the energy sector right now?
Well, we've been seeing a nice rally in energy stocks, and I guess that surprised a lot of people. One particular stock we're following, we didn't put up on our recommended list, Occidental Petroleum, which is, a big stock, not a small one, certainly not a speculative one, broke out this week to new relative highs and technically into broke above resistance, and it's still cheap compared to where it used to be. So that's telling me, among other things, that oil is headed higher. Does that mean we've entered World War III? Is Iran about to send over a nuke? Is China about to do something? Are we going to instigate something? Has something already started that we don't know about? A lot of things going on out there. That's what I sort of suspected, that, even though the push for alternate energy is there, it's not enough to take care of our country in these times. Also, upticks in nuclear fuel, uranium and so forth. Maybe nuclear power are going to be more needed, whether it's a war situation or just as a backup energy source. So a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world today besides the virus.
It seems energy always does well in bad political times. And when I say political, we're talking geopolitical times.
And I'm going to throw this story at you, too. I know I'm probably going to get a lot of feedback on this or pushback on this, but, when we're talking about the virus, you and I are probably old enough, probably most of our listeners, to remember the movie On the Beach back in the 50s and 60s, where, if you recall the plot of that film, it was a book as well. We had nuclear war, and everybody in the world was dying, and finally the last vestiges of human existence were on the beach or in Australia, if you remember that story. And at the very end of the film and the story, these last survivors of this the nuclear holocaust who knew the radiation was about to kill them end up killing themselves, taking, was it cyanide pills or whatever, and they figured they'd rather die by their own hands than let the radiation come and kill them. So why am I bringing this story up? Well, first it was, a very impressive story as a youngster. When I heard and read that, you wonder, could something like that really happen? But when I reflect on what's happening in the world today with this virus, I wonder if it's just another form of On the Beach. We've got this plague, call it the radiation, spreading around the world, people supposedly dying everywhere, which we could question as well, because we can't believe all the numbers, and we wonder if it's intentionally being spread. We hear there's new variations of it right now, different strains, whether it's mutating or whether, as I feel, there's a good chance that it's intentionally being created and spread for some cynical purpose. I tend to think along these lines. I don't always think things are purely accidental, but here we are panicking about taking flu shots and wearing masks and fearing that we're going to make it, and I just can't help but think, is this like on the beach? That radiation is coming, it's going to get us, so we got to do something, so I guess we're going to take vaccinations, but do we know if they're really safe? Are they going to have secondary effects on us? They've been rushed. There's a lot of questions about the efficacy of these vaccinations, so, my viewpoint is if I'm going to take a vaccination, it's like taking that cyanide pill. I'm not going to do it. Back to your questions.
Are there any geocosmic events coming up that perhaps could influence the markets?
We just had a big solar event in the last few days. There's stuff going on with the, it's funny you should mention that. There's a great website that I refer to in my newsletter. It's called spaceweather.com, and there's some interesting clouds over Argentina again and over the Antarctic. And they're trying to speculate, what's causing these things. They're called NLCs, the highest Earth's clouds, and they're occurring at a time when they shouldn't be occurring. But we had a solar event the last few days, and big surge on the sun. They thought there was going to be more of an impact on the Earth than it was, but there's a lot of stuff going out there on the sun right now, so that might have some effect as well. So we're always watching out for that, and keeping our eye on the asteroids that are floating out there and other cool stuff. There has been an increase in some volcanic activity. Kilauea in Hawaii has become active again, and there hasn't been a big surge of earthquakes these past couple of weeks, but prior to that there was, around the time of the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. There was a little more activity in terms of earthquake activity, if I recall. So there's a lot of interesting stuff out there affecting the planet, I think, besides the politicians in Washington who seem to feel they control the planet.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Aben's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at abenresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Yesterday I did an interview with Stuart Muir from the Resource Works Society, and he was saying, yeah, everybody's saying electric cars are the way to go, but he said the cost outweighs the economic benefit. The places where electric cars are popular, like Norway, the government subsidies are absolutely monstrous. You take those away, and the car is totally expensive. And he compared two models that look the same, drive the same. One is a gas model that you can buy for under $12,000, and a similar electric car is $48,000. That's a lot of gasoline you'd have to use to save that money.
And, we can talk about the Tesla situation. A lot of the success of Tesla has been because of subsidies, as you're referring to, or tax incentives. And, there's a push for alternate energy, the belief that fossil fuels are the end of civilization for us, that, if we continue using them, we're going to kill the planet. Not to say that we couldn't, have scrubbers or other things to clean things up, which we do, but and solar energy. I mean, these things are all great things, and they're clean, and but what's the cost of doing them, and are they creating the result that we're looking for? We know solar is great, but it's not really enough to replace our energy needs. Wind power, we know that's the case. Gas-driven automobiles are going to be around a while. People can't afford necessarily the more expensive cars, as you just cited. And I'm always concerned myself personally about, traveling long distances depending on a battery, which, may not last the length of the trip, or I may not be able to recharge along the way. And, what if power goes down? What if the electric grid goes down? What if there's a international conflict? What if there's an
electromagnetic pulse.
EMP event, correct. Thank you for helping me there. EMP event, and suddenly the power grid is not there, and you can't charge your car, and on and on and on. So, I guess solar would work there as long as the sun's still shining, but, there are a lot of variables. I mean, the combination cars that came out, what was the Volt, one of the first ones out there, and some, the Prius, where you can do both gas and electric, make more sense to me that you got a backup system of some kind versus depending totally on a plug-in and relying on a charging system. So my own personal preference is I don't want it because, until it's so proven that unless the car could generate its own energy, let's say it had its own internal nuclear engine of some kind, the way we have submarines and warships that run forever on nuclear power, where we don't even have to worry about recharging, run for years on a self-contained nuclear battery of some kind, or whether solar cells could be so efficient that they could power a car perpetually as long as you had some daylight somewhere. I'm just thinking out loud here. I mean, what else could you create that would give you that independence? So I'm a nervous buyer when it comes to those things. I don't want to be dependent only on the electric vehicle.
Well, in Britain, on one of their freeways, which they call motorways, they're going to build what they call the green lane that will automatically charge your electric car. But I wonder, have they done any studies about what kind of health effects are there if you're going through that strong of an electromagnetic field that can charge your battery?
Okay. Well, people also worry when you go through those electromagnetic fields when you go fly an airplane. Before you get on an airplane, you go through those detection devices too that will have some effect on you as well. So,
and those security people are getting cancer from it, apparently.
Well, listen, there's a whole discussion about 5G, and now we're reading somewhere that the Chinese are already using 6G, supposedly. I read some research on that, and there's two very competent doctors that I've reached, have met both personally and also read their research that have extensive articles on how 5G is bad for you, and the conventional press is not going to talk about it. Certainly, Silicon Valley is not going to tell us, and all this microwave and other radiation is all around us is hurting us in many ways, shortening our lives. We hear stories all the time about how parents may live longer than their kids because there's bad nutrition issues, but also the electromagnetic stuff that's going on around. So. Yep. And what do? You have to find a place where can you go where you're not going to be exposed to any of this, and you have to go further and further out. But now they've got satellites. SpaceX has just launched a bunch of satellites up there, for I believe it was for 5G and
yes.
for communication. So they're going to bombard the planet. So if you're out in the middle of the Amazon somewhere, you may still get it. And there's not much we can do about it, but there are some procedures I'm reading about where you can shield yourself in some ways with certain types of devices you can wear or clothing you could wear or some, other devices you might put into your house to avoid this. So there are expensive and, cumbersome ways of trying to get around it all, but good point about those cars in Britain, there's side effects to it. And then, again, what about the point that I just made about the power grid going down? What if there's no electricity and it can't charge your car?
And if you think humans aren't sensitive to electromagnetic radiation, Lucille Ball, remember I Love Lucy? Mm-hmm. During World War II, she just had some dental work done, and she said every time she drove by this building, she would get a strange, buzzing, pulsing sound in her head that sounded like Morse code. Well, so it's wartime. The FBI actually investigated her complaint. It turned out to be a Japanese spy base that was sending out radio messages to Tokyo, and they were making her dental work vibrate. So, yeah, it can affect you. And Lucille Ball helped bust a Japanese spy ring. It's a little known story. It only became public after they released that secret information recently.
Wow. Well, there's a lot of other good stuff I'm sure we're going to get in those files as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing a lot of this stuff, But, yeah, that's fascinating. That's, we've always heard stories about people that they feel things in their head or their tooth, or that there might be some other, factors out there that some people are more sensitive to than others. So absolutely. Sounds logical to me.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, are there any particular areas that you think people should be taking a look at that haven't been looked at in recent times?
Well, we're looking at stuff every day. There's a lot of stocks that were, more individual names than in groups that we've talked about. So a lot of the EV electric vehicle stocks and the solar stuff. I mean, we've been beating the bushes on these for last year or two, and they're way up there. So I guess they can go higher. I'm not inclined to chase them unless we get a bit of a pullback, and I'm a little cautious on the market here, as I've been, even though we are trading, we're in and out of a lot of stuff, but I'm keeping a hedge position here and some inverse positions just in case, we see something blow up. We are in the gun stocks because I think, the Taser, one name, which is now Axion, AAXN, and they changed the name of the company that ran up. I think the new highs in trading today. We're still in a couple of the gun names like Ruger and Smith & Wesson. I'm looking for this is my own personal assessment. I think it's common sense. I think this, civil war has already sort of started here, unfortunately, here in the U.S., and I think it could possibly get worse, and civil unrest, if you don't want to call it civil war, and there's a lot of potential conflict around the world, and, I mentioned uranium before, and we talked about crude oil going up, so I'm looking for my personal assessment is, defense stocks are starting to move. So I think we're going to see, both domestic and international conflicts ahead. So, stocks that play into defense, stocks that play into personal defense, are something to keep on the top of your watch list or trading list. And, outside of that, we got long the inverse ETF for bonds. We think interest rates are ticking up. I think we mentioned this in the last couple of interviews. I think rates are starting to go up here a little bit. How much they'll go. It's the old tail wagging the dog. The Fed's telling us they're not going to do anything and keep rates down, but the real market is saying no. We think rates are going up, and ultimately that could affect the Fed, and so you can suddenly see an unexpected surge in rates possibly here, which would be a big surprise to investors over the next year or two, and what will that do for the stock market and other investments is to be considered. And we didn't talk about the dollar this week. Conventional view is the dollar is going to zero because of the money printing in the United States and so forth. And, maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But, my charts say it's deeply oversold. Some of the internal indicators, seem to be turning up. And one heck of a rally in the dollar might surprise a lot of people, too. And, of course, that may affect both the stock market and the gold market. So a lot of things to keep your eye on here, We're doing this for about 40 years, so I guess I tend to be, I like to keep my antenna up, as they say. You want to make sure you're watching everything.
Sleep with one eye open.
That's right, and keep both antenna up.
Mark, can you again remind our listeners about the special offer?
Yeah, sure. The shortcut is to go to vrtrader.com, and in any of our newsletters, we're offering 50% off for any subscription you sign up to, and the promo code is Again, I hope that works. 2020 half off. And if it doesn't, it's 2021 half off. Thank you.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. If you have any questions for Mark or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.